Welcome to Putting Power in Your Purpose. I am your host, Suzette Salandi. My next guest is someone that I describe as truly an inspiration. She is a light in my life, and I adore her in so many ways. I'm so thrilled for her to be here today to share with us her wonderful story. Please put your hands together and welcome Ms. Robyn.
Thank you.
How are you?
I am blessed.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you here.
I'm blessed.
You know, we have wonderful chats all the time. You and I, we talk about different things, but mostly because of our love for God and, you know, really just how we feel about Him. So when I was having my first show, I thought no other person that I would want for my inspirational segment than Ms. Robyn Johnson herself. So welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Honored.
It's an honor to have you. And I'm going to try not to cry because whenever she's in my presence, it's just something about her that always makes me want to cry. And it's probably because of the love that I have for you. So anyway, I'm not going to get emotional because I knew that's what you were going to do. In speaking of stories, and we've shared a number of stories, you talked about the situation with your daughter and her inability to speak. And I would love for you to talk about that story, not because of, you know, bringing back that emotion again, but because of the outcome of that story. So, you want to tell our audience?
Yes, my oldest daughter, Janae, her senior year in high school, got very, very ill. She called home one day and said, in class, "Mommy, I can't concentrate. Come and get me." So my husband and I went to school and we picked her up. She walked in the house and the first thing she said to us was, "I want my joy back. Something's not right." From there, we went from hospital to hospital and ended up in Children's Hospital where they admitted her immediately and she had her first seizure. From there, she ended up in the ICU. 5 seizures, ICU, and they finally did a spinal tap and realized that she had a rare brain infection. From that, she spent a total of 85 days in the hospital, and I never left her. God allowed me to sit with her and pray with her, but He also told me that she was going to be fine. And my purpose was to sit there and to tell everyone who walked in our room that God was in control. So my daughter did not speak. She basically just stared out, and I prayed over her each and every day. When she was ready to be moved, they moved her to a rehab in Philadelphia, and at that time she went through all kinds of therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy, and it wasn't until God was ready to allow her to speak again, and she did. After 85 days in the hospital, the chains were broken. My daughter was back. I remember the day when it happened. My girlfriend had prayed over her, and the very next day she looked at me and said, "Hi, Mommy," and I knew then that my daughter was back. It was a diagnosis that no mother would ever want to hear, that her daughter has a rare brain infection. Her senior year in high school, she had did everything right. She was headed off to college, and something like this happened. Well, as I was praying for her in the hospital, I said, "God, give me a word. Give me your word." And He led me to Genesis 50, and I have that scripture here that I like to share with you. He gave me Genesis 50:20. And Genesis 50:20, it says, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." And in verse 21, "So then don't be afraid," and this was a personal message to me, "I will provide for you and your children." And God did exactly that. He provided for me and my children. My daughter today is she's a miracle. She's a miracle. She's in college. She's speaking. And she is on our church choir singing for God. So I cannot ask.
Oh, wow.
This is not the first this is not the first incident of miracles that God has performed. My youngest daughter, 4 years ago, was injured with a hair clip and left blind in one eye. So God prepares you. This happened in 2009, and she went through 7 surgeries, and God said, Robyn, I have you and I have your children. And when that happened, I too said, Lord, they belong to you. They belong to you, but I am honored that you chose me to be their mother. So I have 2 children that I'm very excited about, that God has blessed my husband and I with, who I consider miracles, that are changing the lives of so many, because it's not about us. It's always about him. To God be the glory.
You know, as parents, you know, we face challenges. What can you share with parents that are going through some sort of challenge with their children?
As I sat there in both times with both children, I am reminded that our children belong to God. They belong to God. We are honored to be their parents, but there was nothing I could do. There was nothing I could do but pray. And I tell people, when there's nothing you can do, prayer is powerful, powerful. I was supposed to sit there and do the things that I do. So I tell parents, to be an advocate for your children, we must do all that we can humanly do, because God does the rest. Each child, there were situations where I had to be their advocate. I had to tell the doctors, especially with Janae, I had to tell the doctors, you can't fix what you didn't create. Only God can do that. And I had to believe that. God gives us enough. He gave me enough faith for me to believe, and I kept doing that. So I tell parents, no matter what the situation is, you have to trust. You have to trust him. You have to trust him that he will handle and take care of everything, because he's in control and we're not.
Absolutely. Wow. Amazing. Amazing. So tell me, how do you put power in your purpose?
By believing. By believing. By never giving up. Waking up every morning knowing that it's a gift. And I tell people, and I've shared with you, I refuse to give God a bad name.
Woo!
I refuse.
Robyn Johnson for joining us today. Truly a light and inspiration in my life, and I just want to say thank you. Thank you. Once again, Ms. Robyn Johnson.